Hey everyone, Dr. Bob Rowe here. So this is a short course in the modern technologies we have today to enhance our brain function. It's really important because the more you can control your brain, the more you get out of life, actually. So it's very, very simple. In all areas of life, more creativity, more control over difficult situations, anything that you can think of. When you're using your brain, you get way, way more out of it. So these are some of the technologies we have that allow us to function better as human beings. So I'll go through a few simple, very, very simple things, and then you'll get a better understanding. You're only going to learn this by trying some of them out, seeing how they affect you, and then understanding from your point of view whether that's beneficial or not. So keep an open mind and just listen very carefully. Check them all out. They're all available. Lots of YouTube videos on them. So go ahead and check them out. They're really, really important in your life if you want more control of your brain. I think everybody really does. Just have a better life. So today we use technology in pretty well everything. Unfortunately, technology can distract us as well as enhance our function. We can get all kinds of information from our technologies, but that information can actually distract us, and we can go on and on and on and just waste our time. So, and again, that's a feature of brain function, how you're controlling your brain and how focused you are. And these technologies do help a lot with that. So again, it's not so much the technologies, but how do you put it to work? And a lot of these technologies allow you to get your brain functioning at a higher level. And they're not a crutch. They actually train your brain. Remember, this is about training your brain to get to a better level. Once you get to that level, it's automatic. Then you use it all the time. So this isn't a crutch. You don't have to walk around with these technologies on you all the time. Each time you use them, you train your brain a little bit better, but it's not definitely not a crutch. It's just a training aid. Just like when you learn mathematics, difficult in the beginning, when you get really good at it, you don't have to go back and learn the thing over and over again. You have a good understanding of it. And if you want to advance at higher levels, then you have to do more training in it. Same with this. So let's talk a little bit about our brain and how it works. Our brain is very, very creative. We're actually meant to be creative and happy. That's what the most of our brain is put together for. So if you were to be able to access all the potential of your brain, you could be in this super creative state all the time and do amazing things. Unfortunately, in our society, we've been trained to stay in this thing called the high alert state. We're distracted by things very, very quickly. And it's important to know that your brain can only be in one state at a time. When you get into that high alert state, it takes over everything else. We can't do anything else. It's kind of hijacked us. And these technologies help you control your brain. And that's really what this is all about. We have a problem today in our society that our educational system has been constructed in a certain way to teach us in a certain way. And I like what I think it was Mark Twain said, that don't let your schooling interfere with your learning. Your brain learns by certain associations, and unfortunately in school they have one way of teaching you, and not every brain's the same. They're all different. So some of us do well in school, some of us don't. The interesting thing is that a lot of the super high-achieving entrepreneurs out there that have done amazing things in our society, unfortunately didn't do so well in regular school. So don't let your schooling interfere with your learning to become better at what you do in life. A couple of my favorites are Bob Proctor and Brian Tracy. If you look at the amazing things they do today and what they've done with helping other people, and they didn't do so well even in high school. So, and of course, their level of learning is so high because they didn't let their schooling get in the way of it. And so they function at a very, very high level of learning. So let's talk about the optimal state of our brain. And we can get this idea from understanding about kids, right? If you give a kid some pots or pans or a cardboard box or anything like that, they can take it and just run away with it in their mind and go and create all kinds of wonderful things. Unfortunately, that's what we've lost over time, mainly because of the schooling system, mainly because of the stress of life that shuts our brain down. But we can actually bring our brains back to that happy and creative state using some of this technology. Not always high-tech technology, but some of the technologies from past generations we will talk about also. And again, you know, all these pressures keep us in this state, this high alert state. I don't want to dwell on that, but we know what that is. It's called the fight or flight. You want to know more about it, check it out. All kinds of great teachers out there, gurus that will teach you about how your brain functions, everything from the biology of belief, some of Joe Dispenza's work, that kind of thing. Give you an idea of what your brain is capable of and how to direct it in the right way. These technologies just add to that to make it a little easier for that to happen to you. So modern technology is basically there to help us get more control of our brain. And that's basically it. Now, I did a program called Your Brain Rules, and it talks about other things you can do to get back in control of your brain. Because really the biggest game in life is how well can you control your brain? And the more you can control your brain, the more you can get things done. The more you can get things done, the more you accomplish, and the better you do in life. No matter what it is you're doing, creatively, business, money, that kind of thing, it's all up to you. If you're in better control of your brain, you're going to be able to access that much better. And that's really what this is all about. So really, how does this work? Well, in order to understand how this works, we have to understand a little bit about brain frequencies. So we're going to talk about brain frequencies. Now, your waking state is what we call beta. Alpha is more of a relaxed state when we maybe even after some people go for a run, they get the runner's high, they get into this alpha state where they just are totally relaxed and almost in a kind of an exhausted state. Some of the researchers said that if you take a glass of wine, that feeling you have after just one glass of wine, not many glasses of wine, but that one glass of wine where it just kind of like takes the edge off of everything, that's more the alpha state. Now, theta is an interesting state. It's a healing state. You can help heal other people with that state. And the brain technologies help you get to these different states. And delta is a deep sleep state, but some people can actually operate in delta, which is really, really interesting. There's a lot more that you can look up on this. I won't go into it. Some of the other areas that are studied are gamma and hypergamma, and we're just starting to understand this amazing transformational technologies in our body-brain connection with these other things, but that's not quite what this is about today. So we're going to talk about how most of us are stuck in this state we call beta. That's the fear state, high alert state. Oh, well, this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or oh my gosh, and you get into this spiral, and it makes it worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And most of that stuff never even happens, but that's just the way our brain works. And we need to know how we can move out of that and control our brains from being sucked into that state so often today. You know, you watch the news and all the things going on there, that can suck you into that state so fast. And then you just get stuck in it, and then you're rolling around in that state all day long thinking about, oh, that certain person, that happened to them, that person got shot, or the family that was affected because their house burned down. I mean, that can just go on and on and on. So we need to be able to move out of that state in order so that we have more control. And so modern technology has a way of doing that for us. And the brain can actually be taught how to do that. And there's a phenomenon known as the frequency following response that allows our brain to be channeled into a different frequency. And most of the technologies are based on that. Even the ancient technologies are based on that. So it's important that we understand how that whole thing works. And so how does this work? Well, It's known as entrainment. In other words, your brain picks up a frequency if you do certain things with it. And the brain, when it's exposed to a certain frequency over time, whether it's a sound, like we call an audio sound, audio frequency, or a visual stimulation, something you see, over time the brain gets fascinated with it, and actually it starts to adopt that frequency. In other words, you move into that frequency. Now, an example of that would be if you sat in front of a candle and watch that candle flicker. Over time, you get kind of on into this drowsy state, and that's again that alpha state. And so your brain follows that frequency, and that slows your brain down from beta into alpha, which is the next level. And by doing that, you can get into this more relaxed state. Then it's really hard to be in the high alert, fear state, if you're in this alpha floating kind of state. So when you've been exposed to this frequency over and over and over, your brain just adapts to it and adopts that frequency. And modern technology uses light, sound, electrical stimulation, and a number of things, feedback from your brain, to actually teach you how to gain control over those different states of your brain, so that then you can direct your brain to what you want it to do. Now, let's go through some of them. We'll go into them a little more in depth, but the audio technologies like HemiSync, my experience with HemiSync was going to the Monroe Institute, was an amazing experience. At the end of the week, after just using that entrainment system called HemiSync, I could really, I was able to probably a high theta, if not an awake delta state, where everything seemed to be amazing. So if the Buddhist monks get into that state, I can see why they're happy all the time, because nothing affects you. You're just in almost a state of bliss. Now you can get some of these free sound bites from the Monroe Institute if you go onto that website, and we'll talk about that in a minute. There's also another one called HoloSync. I'm not too familiar with that one, but it's very similar. There's another thing called audio-visual entrainment, and that uses light as well as sound in order to allow your brain to function in these different states. So it takes you by entrainment. Remember watching the candle? Well, it can actually take you a lot slower into theta and even into delta, and then bring you back out. So what it's doing is it's actually teaching your brain to move into these different frequencies and then come right back up again. So when you're coming right back up again, then you can, and again, like I explained in the beginning, this is not a crutch, but it's actually a training method where it teaches you to be able to move into these different brainwave states whenever you want to, just because you've experienced them, know what they are, and then once you've experienced and know what they are, you can then get into that state very, very easily. And there's also cranial electrical stimulation. They're actually just things you put on your ears. We'll talk about that in a minute. That help to, again, by this light stimulation, help to bring you into that different state rather than being in beta all the time. It brings you into a lower state. However, sometimes, again, we can get confused after certain traumas, brain traumas, that kind of thing. We can be stuck in this never protective land between alpha and theta, and we're kind of floating there, and it's really hard to get things done. It's really hard to concentrate. And so these light and sound technologies and these different technologies will take you down into even to delta, and then bring you back up through theta, through alpha, and then back up to beta again, and then back down again, so that you can actually learn to move out of that stuck state. I think they call it mu, between alpha and theta, where it's really hard to get things done. So that's basically the light and sound thing, and there's others too. The other technologies are neurofeedback training, and today it's more affordable than anything. It's really easy to get a hold of. They sell them at Best Buy, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Really easy to get back, and it actually, you can see what your brain's doing, and then you can actually learn to control it by seeing what your brain's doing. Really, really simple thing. A lot of different systems out there, and we'll talk about a few of them. The other thing is training your emotions, and That's the Heart Math Institute. We'll again talk about that too. And that's the connection between how your emotions affect your brain and your brain affects your emotions, and how you can learn to control that through that technology, through the Heart Math technology. So putting the modern technologies aside, there's also been these technologies for generations. These have been around, I guess, since the beginning of human culture. And one of them we can look at is drumming. And continually drumming at a certain frequency will then entrain your brain and bring that into frequency. That's probably why those ancient cultures did all that dancing continually over and over again at a certain beat, is because it took them into those deeper states of awareness, from alpha down to theta, and they became very, very locked into that technology, and then they could move back and forth all the time. So that's why they did those regular things all the time. So let's talk a little bit about audio technologies. Again, HemiSync, that is one of those ones where it puts two different frequencies in your ear, and the difference in the frequency is a very, very low frequency, and that can be alpha, can be theta, can be beta, but and delta, and your brain picks up the differences between the two frequencies and then entrains to that, which slows your brain down, and you can get into alpha, theta, and delta, and back up again. And so there's a number of uses for that, and again, you know, anything from your experience with trauma, brain damage, or just your tendency to be in the high alert state with a lot of anxiety, that kind of thing. That the audio technologies help to bring you back into that more controlled state, whether it's alpha, theta, or those states. And HemiSync was developed by a fellow by the name of Bob Monroe. I got to meet him when I was there in 1987. Amazing guy, quite amazing guy. But anyways, you can get these, just go to the Monroe Institute website and click on HemiSync, and there's some free examples there. Try them out. Once you get an idea what they are, then you can go to YouTube and also pick those out. But again, be sure that they are the true HemiSync ones and not something that somebody's come up with. I could go on and on, but if you get the idea, again, you know, try out the Monroe Institute. HoloSync, you can go to some of those websites too. HoloSync has a website called Centerpoint. It explains a lot more about how that technology works, and you can actually download a book on it. Quite interesting. Anything that is free and can give you all that information is pretty darn interesting. So have a look at it. The more information you understand about how your brain works, the better you're going to put it into use, and the better it's going to work for you. That's all I can say. So understanding it is the best of all. And we talk about audiovisual entrainment. Again, I have a number of these pieces of equipment. I found that Mind Alive in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, is probably the best that's been around for the longest time. And I would definitely recommend that. You can also get a combination of their equipment with the electrical brain stimulation one, where you hook it onto the earlobes. So it's really good quality equipment, really worth the investment. Remember, you're going to use this for years to come, and it's going to train your brain. If you train your brain, you control your brain, definitely you're going to have a better life, because you're going to have more input into what's going on in your life, more control. So check that out. There are a few other pieces of equipment we'll talk about in a minute, but this is a really, really simple understanding of how it works. And again, this is the different technologies of the lights. You put these goggles on that flash certain frequencies of light, and you keep your eyes closed while this is going on, and your ears, and they synchronize and help to bring you to that state. So now you have two technology. You have your visual and you have your hearing or audio technologies coming together, so it's a little more powerful. They all work and work really well, and some work better for people than others. Again, we're all individuals. Find the one that works best for you. Again, the Mind Alive equipment, I really like that one because it's really high quality equipment. Dave Sieber, really nice guy who developed all this equipment. Has been doing it for years, been around the longest, and has again, my opinion, is the best equipment. Now there's another one that I've tried that I like too. It's called the Proteus. I think you can find this one still on Amazon. It's a pretty good one. A lower price point, doesn't do quite as much as the Mind Alive equipment does. But you know, if that works for you and you can start there and that's all you can afford, go for it. I would say definitely try these out. They are great. They're going to do you a lot of good for the progress of your brain. If you're in the healing professions, if you're just wanting to control your brain reaction to what goes on, if you want to be more creative, if you want to be more effective and more focused on what you're studying, that kind of thing. All good stuff. So, and again, you know, different equipment, but check them out. Do some YouTube videos on them. You make a decision on what works best for you and try it out. I don't think you can go wrong. They're all really, really good equipment. Now, you can go to the Mind Alive website. They have tons of information there. I would say get really well educated in that before you go ahead and just buy anything. Be well versed in what it's going to do for you, and write down what you want it to do for you. If you have any questions, contact the website, contact the people at Mind Alive and ask them for more information. They seem to be the ones that are around to answer. So ask them. They'll give you all the information you want. I think you can even take a course through them. I did, and it was fantastic. Really good course. I learned a lot. Allowed me to help out a lot of my clients with that equipment too. Now there's another one called cranial electrical stimulation. It's where you put these little connectors on your ear, and it sends a very, very low intensity stimulation to your ears at a low frequency. And they found by the research that this actually helps with things like pain control, and helps with high anxiety, and helps with all kinds of different states of difficulty with your brain. And it's great. There's been some studies showing that it helps with addictions also. So it really is one of those pieces of equipment that is out there. Nobody knows about it, but it really has an excellent effect on your brain. And it's, again, another brain entrainment technology. And again, you decide what your goals are. Try it out, see what's going on. You know, there's different options for this. You can buy the super highly expensive ones. I mean, a technology is a technology. It sends a frequency through here. You know, whether you're buying the high medical grade one or a local one, there's again, you can get one called the Brain Harmonizer from Victoria, BC. Just go on the internet and look for Brain Harmonizer. Mind Alive has a connection, or you can buy it individually, but you can buy one with the other entrainment technologies they have, so they're connected together, so you can double them together, which is really great too. And again, you know, check these things out. Go onto YouTube, see some videos on them, talk to the people that are producing them, get as much information as possible. And again, they're all about entraining your brain so that you can feel what it's like to be in those frequencies, and you can get to those frequencies anytime you want for all those important functions that we talked about. Everything from creativity to focus to business to all of those things, healing, are all about that too. Let's talk a little bit about neurofeedback. Now, neurofeedback is where you are connecting these pads to your head, sticky things to your head, or other ones just to your earlobe and to the front of your head, and it's reading your brainwaves. It actually reads the brainwaves. So by reading your brainwaves, the technology can then, when you're wanting to go to a certain brainwave, it can pick up what your brainwaves are, and then by watching the computer screen or watching your cell phone or your iPad or whatever you plugged it into, you can see how your brain's responding. And then you can actually start to control by watching how your brain's responding to direct it to go into a different frequency, which is pretty mind-boggling. But neurofeedback is a fascinating subject. I studied it for a number of years, and I love the responses from it. So, you know, like the signals are picked up by the electrodes sent to the amplifier, which then sends it to computer, and the software then allows you to see your brainwave frequencies, and then by you reacting to the frequency, you can see the changes in your brainwave frequency, and then after time, you'll be able to just know when you're at a certain frequency, because you can remember by that state of how you're feeling, and you've seen it on the computer screen that then you're in alpha or theta or delta or whatever. And of course, it saves you years and years and years of training. You don't have to go and do meditation for 30, 40 years to get there. You can see your results right away. It's pretty amazing technology. There's a lot of professional systems that do it. And again, you know, you can go and do some research, and you can see the differences that people get by doing the neurofeedback and how much their brain changes. And again, there's so many different types of brainwave entrainment technologies, neurofeedback technologies out there, and we'll talk about a few of them. Some are inexpensive, but again, it's the same thing. Picks up the information, sends it through an amplifier, sends it to the computer, and you can actually watch the different brainwaves and how they're working in the different areas of your head. That gets really into detail on the different areas and what you want to do with it, and more specifics, but not anything that you really need to know unless you really want to go into depth, and then you have to do the training for it and become a professional. But let's look at some simple systems, because there's a lot of systems that are just off the shelf systems that you can get. BrainLink Pro, it's a really good one. NeuroSky is another really good one. NeuroSky, sometimes it's got it. You don't in neurofeedback, they usually use these sensors that they put this goo on your head for conductivity, and they put it on your head. NeuroSky doesn't have any of those. I don't think BrainLink Pro does that either. They just have a sensor that can pick that up, and it doesn't need the goo on it, so it connects to your forehead and to your earlobe. And again, you can see how your brain's functioning, because it connects up to your computer or it connects up to your iPad. And some of them are wireless, and some of them are direct connect. But each one of them has a certain improvements over there, or differences, not improvements, differences over one from the other. And it's up to you to research it and see which one is going to work for you. Amazing technologies. I mean, when I was at the Monroe Institute, this was all a dream. This was something that we would really have liked to have had, but couldn't see how it was ever going to be available back in 1987. Now, you can go to Best Buy and buy this piece of equipment called Muse. You can order the other systems over the internet. They can end up in your door instead of, you know, it was impossible in 1987 to even do this. Now, for a couple $100, you can get a Muse from Best Buy, hook it into your cell phone, and you can see your brain waves going, and it can train your brain waves to take you where you want it to go, and you get in touch with your brain waves. So lots of those off-the-shelf systems. Go ahead and explore them, try them out. I like the Muse; it was quite good. I like NeuroSky also. NeuroSky was almost at the level of a professional system. So we want to talk a little bit about professional systems. Now, there are a number of different professional systems, and they're a little more complicated, but they give you a lot more feedback. And if you're really interested in getting really in depth about it, I don't think you're really, on the average person doesn't really need that. But if you want to get into really in depth about it, there are a number of professional systems out there, and they are very powerful, but of course they're going to cost a lot more. I like NeuroOptimal is one, but I think they charge you a monthly fee. I'm not so sure I like that one too much. Peak Achievement Trainer, again, it's into the thousands of dollars, but it has a lot more going for it. It is a real professional system. You can see all the different areas of your brain, how they're working and how you're responding. It gives you numbers. And there's lots of good resources that you can get from the Peak Achievement Trainer people, as well as NeuroSky. But again, investigate them. There's so many out there, and everybody's brain is different. I'm just saying that if you're really serious about getting control of your brain and your life, then really look at these different options and really decide, start small and then build yourself up. But once you get into this, you find that you really want the best system. And again, it's because when you have control over your brain, you have more control over your life and you just get more out of life, and that's just it. I don't think you can put a price on that. And again, the future of brain technology from 1987 to now has changed so much. I couldn't even conceive of it back then, how powerful it's gotten today, and just off-the-shelf technologies. I'm sure we're going to have little patches that we'll be able to stick on that will send wireless information to our smartphones all the time, and will alert us when we're getting into that state of anxiety, or we're even going into depression or something like that. It will tell us before we get there and tell you to do your exercise or to move into a different brainwave frequency so that you avoid that. Again, who knows what that's going to be like, but if you were there in 1987 the way I was and saw the difference today and how it's off the shelf and that inexpensive, I think you would be blown away like I am. It's like when I developed laser technology in 1985, there was a laser tube, and now you can get the same laser technology out of a solid state device for just a few dollars. Whatever works for you, go ahead and investigate it all. I don't think there's anything more important that you can investigate whenever you can improve your brain function, improve your life. I don't think there's anything that you don't want to look at. You want to look at anything that you can to get you there, because your life is all about the quality of how your brain functions. And that's really about what this is about, bringing you there in an easier way and allowing you to get to a much higher level. Now, there's one that I really have to talk about, and that's training emotions. And go to the HeartMath Institute, because there's this emotional connection with the brain, and some of the work that Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing has shown that that is really the reality of what's going on, is that there's no separation between your brain and your heart. They work together. And again, using the HeartMath equipment, you can do that, improve heart rate variability, and there's lots of information. I'm not going to go into it in great depth, but I suggest take a look at that one too. Really important. I mean, what the heck, here's your life, here's your brain, here's how to improve your life, and all of this equipment. I would check them all out, because one of them is going to do a lot for you, if not all of them. See what one works best for you. We know that, you go out into nature and you have this emotional connection with nature. I could go on and on and on, but the more coherence you have between your brain and your heart, the better control you have over both, and the better your life is going to be. And again, go check these out. The technologies are amazing, inexpensive, not in the thousands, just a few $100s, and you can connect it up to your smartphone. You can connect it up to your computer. You can connect it up to your tablet, whatever, and it's right there. I mean, go ahead, use it. That's all I can say. Check it out anyways, and get one to improve your life and your health. And saying that, there's a lot of ancient technologies too. Like you can go on the internet, research these things, and remember that this whole entrainment thing is what it's all about. Getting control of your brain frequencies, which controls how you're reacting to your life, and how much control you have over creativity, over your emotions, over focus, over all those things in life that are so important for you having a better life. And go ahead, check out these the drumming. I mean, drumming for me takes me into a whole different realm. It's amazing. I just love it. I love listening to some of the drum beats I find on YouTube videos. It's just great. Try it. Check it out. I mean, you have nothing to lose. That one's free. There's also some classical music and a lot of research on this, helping students in university and high school and study and retain things much better. There's just a few of them. Again, check them out. So in ending this off, I want you to know that there's so much out there today. And of course, it's not advertised because there's not a big monetary gain from all of that stuff. They don't make enough money to go on TV and advertise this and have everybody familiar with it like they do with drugs and all kinds of other things. So it's up to you, though, to take a look, find out what this is, find out how it's going to work for you, and go ahead and use it. It's that easy. Start with the simple things, the things you can get for free, and then move in. If it's helping you and you want to go farther, get some of the simple, inexpensive brain technologies and use them, and move up and see how far you can go. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.